Hey everyone, welcome to this video. And in this video, I'm going to go through a resume that someone volunteered their resume. So there'll actually be a number of these videos, so they're not too long. Most of them hopefully like in the 10 to 15 minute range max. I'll try to talk really fast. But this is essentially someone that's looking to go into essentially incident response or a SOC analyst type of role, specifically around threat hunting for organizations. This is a she, and so she has solid education, has some experience working in identity access management, etc. Just to give you some context of as I go through this resume. So I'm going to give my perspective as a hiring manager as I go through this resume, and just kind of tell you my raw thoughts and take it or leave it, love it or hate it. That's what's going to happen in this video. So, anyways, let's go off. First thing I notice when I'm a hiring manager and I look at this, there's way too much freaking going on, like way too much text. It's not easy to read. Education's up front. I don't know anything about you. Just all these issues, right? Now, the experience and all that stuff is really good, but the bolding and just there's just so much text, right? This is a very difficult resume to read, and honestly, I'm probably going to move this one to the bottom of the pile just because I've got other ones to look through, and this is just way too much going on. So, anyways, starting off with kind of a negative there, but just trying to be honest. So at the top here, name, email, phone, phone number, stuff like that. That stuff's fine. So my recommendation. So number one, never put your city and state. Why do I say that? Because a lot of jobs advertise as remote these days, but most of them want you in office, and essentially they're trying to discredit you or remove you from the pile essentially before they even talk to you. Your entire goal with a resume is to get the interview. Like that's it. It's not to try to get the job or anything like that. The only goal with the resume is to get the interview. And in the interview, the only goal is to get the job. And then once you nail the interview, then the goal is to negotiate, from there. But entire goal of your resume is to get the interview. And a lot of places actually will disqualify you if you put your city and state or your geographic location down. So just remove that. I know there's bad advice on LinkedIn and other social media from people that they themselves are unemployed. So why the heck would you listen to them anyways? But they're telling you like, oh, put your address and put your city and state, and don't put any of that stuff on there. So email address, and what I recommend with your email address is create like a Gmail, just one Gmail account that you're going to use for all your applications. Keep it separate from your personal one, and that way in that Gmail anything coming through is either an actual place trying to interview you, or if you have accidentally applied to like a spam job posting, all they have is like that fake email address, right? They don't have your actual email. Same thing with a phone number. Don't put your real phone number on here. Very few people are ever going to call you. Very recruiters, all that, they're going to, even if they call you, they're going to usually email you as well to actually set up the interview. So people just don't really call anymore. So with your phone number, you can create a free Google Voice phone number if you've got a personal Gmail account. It's free. You can create one number for free. Use that for all your applications. So you've got one phone number, it's coming through. You got one email address, it's coming through, and none of that stuff is your actual personal information. And then, of course, your LinkedIn profile. That's totally fine to put up there as well. For this particular person, and again, please don't in the comments like, "Oh, that's my resume." Please don't do that because then everyone knows this is your stuff. But for this person in particular, or if your resume looks similar, try a different format. You want it to be a lot cleaner and easier to read. So education, in my opinion, this is just my personal opinion, that should be at the bottom of your resume. That's completely, it's not irrelevant information, but I want to know, like, I want a summary here essentially, right? Just a short summary tailored to the job that you're applying for. So for example, this person, as I mentioned, she's looking to go into more of a kind of an intermediate level incident response, probably a L2, maybe an L3 SOC analyst. So that's the role she's going for, right? She's trying to get, she's got a little experience and things like that from her past work overseas. Now she's here in the U.S. trying to get essentially her first U.S. job. So for this person in particular, I would want a summary that's just kind of, is tailored to the job posting, right? So I've got, strong incident response skills with a proven track record of helping detect incidents faster or something, right? I'm interested in this job because whatever, right? Just a couple sentences, short and sweet. I don't need your life story, but something short and sweet so I know a little bit about you, right? Essentially, that's your 30-second elevator pitch. If I met you in an elevator at a conference or something, most people are going to go for 20 minutes telling me about themselves. Tell me that in 30 seconds, like a couple key points and make them relevant to the job that you're applying for. That's what really needs to go here at the top. Education, I would move this way down. And then your professional experience, I would clean this up. And let's talk about all this stuff so you don't have to worry about all the squiggly lines I just drew. Let's back up a second and let's talk about how your average hiring manager, recruiter, HR person, basically anyone looking at your resume, how do they read your resume? They do it like the letter F. Now, here in the US, the letter F is known as a bad grade in school. It means you failed. But they read your resume that way, right? So basically, they're going to read your summary section. They'll come down. They'll read maybe one or two things of your experience. And then, and if they're interested enough, they'll keep reading down the rest of your resume, right? So that's an F for that's how they read your stuff. Quick disclaimer: if you hear my cat meowing, she's trying to get attention right now. So if you hear a meow or you hear like somebody scratching a litter box or crazy noise, that's my cat, and she doesn't care about when I film. In fact, she's always trying to be seen on camera. She's a little bougie like that. So back to the resume stuff here. Your hiring manager, whoever's reading your resume, they're going to read it like that F. In the vast majority of cases, yes, if you're in the like Middle East or somewhere else, they might read it differently. But here in the US, which is where I'm at and what I know about the most, they read it like the letter F. So that being said, you want it to be very easy to read. So I mentioned summary section up here, very easy to read. So then they go down, they read your experience a little bit, make that easy to read, and then they're more likely to either read the rest of your resume or they're going to just reach out to you and say, hey, you want to come in for an interview? That's the entire goal, again, of your resume. So this education section, I would move it down. I would, have a summary section there and then clean up the professional experience. But in any event, let's just go off what we got here, right? We got some projects down here. We've got some professional experience and some education. So I'm just going to talk about these areas as individual entities. So essentially, I'll talk about education and what to put there. I'll talk about professional experience, what to put there. And then I'll talk about this project stuff as well, and kind of how to really blend that into your resume so it's easier to read. So that's going to be the approach here. Don't worry about the format this person has their resume in for now. Just take my suggestions that I had of cleaning it up and putting a summary and things like that. So essentially, use a different template or whatever. So let's talk about education section here. She had the university, which is fine. I've obfuscated some information on here to try to make it more difficult for you to know who this is. Location as well. That's totally fine for education, things like that. Again, you don't want to put it for you, right? Put it for all this other stuff though, because that's usually what people want to see. So here, this is kind of just listing some courses, right? Is essentially what she's doing here, right? 14761, applied information assurance, whatever. I don't want to see that in your education. Like you can list your degree and stuff, but really some of these projects, which it seems like you probably did as part of some of these degrees, like pull that stuff up, right? So if you did a project, so for anyone listening to this or watching this video, if you did a project for your college degree or even for a boot camp program or whatever, pull that project out and tell me more about that, like a single project. Like that's all you got to do. You don't have to go list every course you took, and like that's not. I don't want to see any of that. I don't know any of that. I mean, I know what this stuff means. I of course know what malicious code analysis means, but like a recruiter, they're not going to know what the heck that is. They're going to be like, malicious code. Oh, that sounds technical. I don't know. I know what that means, but most people aren't going to be like me, right? They're not going to be a Ken reading your resume. It's mostly going to be non-technical people looking at your resume, at least initially. So pull out a project. And what I mean by that is take a project that you worked on. Tell me about that project. Say, okay, this is the project I worked on for school. This is who else was involved. Like maybe you had a team you worked on it with. And then this is what my responsibility was. Maybe you led the project, maybe you didn't, but you were responsible. You owned something. And then tell me what happened. Like, were there challenges in the project that you faced? Did you have a teammate that wasn't pulling their weight in the project? Okay, how'd you handle that? What that does for me as a hiring manager is that shows me that you've worked on a project before. Whether you led it or not, that's kind of irrelevant. It's a nice to have, but if you didn't lead the project, that's fine. But you owned something essentially, right? You took responsibility for something. You went through the project. Tell me about some challenges so I know that you can work through some challenges. You can do critical thinking and stuff. And what was the outcome? Good or bad, right? Maybe you guys totally blew the project and you failed. That's cool. What did you learn from that? What was what was the experience from that? What did you learn from that particular thing? That's what I want to see in the education. Yes, you can list your degree, and if you want to list your GPA, that's fine. But I mean, honestly, that stuff's pretty irrelevant. Like nobody cares about your GPA anymore, because all the people that are hiring you or that own the company got like a 2.0 out of 4, right? I mean, I myself had a low GPA back in high school, right? But some people are like, oh, he's the greatest, right? Like, I'm still learning. I'm not an expert. Anyways, this video is not about me, but like you don't have to list your GPA is what I'm getting at. You don't have to list every individual course here. Like, no. All I want to see as a hiring manager, I want to see like just one project. If you want to put more than one, it's fine. But be mindful of space in your resume. No more than 2 pages if you got some experience. If you've never worked a job before in your life, your resume really should be like a single page. That whole concept of like, oh, it's got to be all fit into one page. That's what you're seeing here of all this freaking text. I don't want to see all that. The concept of a single page resume is that you tailor your resume so much that you're able to apply to a job and tailor it so specific to that job that it fits on a single page. The reality is that will take you months of work to do to make it actually look good. So totally fine with 2 pages. Because honestly, if I look at this resume right now, let's say it wasn't all text everywhere, right? So let's say this was easy to read and I was interested enough in this person. I'm realistically not going further than this. I'm not gonna, I might read one of these projects, like it, but even if you've got a 30-page resume, like I'm not gonna read all that, right? I'm also not gonna read further if like this resume in its current format. I'm not gonna read this more. Like I would look at this and be like, no, and move on to something else, right? Unless this was the only applicant for the job, which these days, sorry guys and gals and however you gender identify out there, there's thousands of people applying for the same job. So you're competing against all that. So if you have any friction whatsoever, it's just like sales, right? Like if Amazon wasn't so easy to buy from, nobody would buy from Amazon. But you can literally click and you can save, your card and stuff. So a couple clicks or even one click and you got your thing coming to you from Amazon. That's why they were able to grow so much as a business. Whereas other businesses where you got to jump through all these hoops, they didn't do well or they went out of business. In the same way, you're trying to sell your resume, right? You're trying to sell yourself to the company. It's a sales page. If you put any friction on the sales page, you're not going to get the sale, which in this case is getting you in for an interview so you can wow them in the interview. So reduce the friction. That's what you want to do here. Don't worry about that whole, I got to keep it on one page thing. That's 1990s advice, and some of you weren't even born then. So don't listen to that advice. That's stupid people telling you that stuff. And if you want me to tell them they're stupid, I'm happy to. Just tell me their name and give me a contact info, and I'll say, hey, you're stupid for telling people to try to cram it all into a single page. That's not realistic. Again, it's going to take you months of work to actually get a one-page resume that's very succinct for a position. And you can't afford to do that in today's job market because like 40 to 50% of these jobs that are posted are fake, or what we call ghost jobs. They're fake jobs. So if you spend all your time applying for this fake job and you tailor your resume and you spend 3 months doing that, now you're getting kicked out of your apartment because you don't have rent money and you spend all this time on this. That's just stupid, right? That doesn't make any sense. So 2 pages is fine, even 3 pages, depending on how much actual work experience you have, but try to fit it into 2 pages. Don't try to cram it into one because this just looks really bad. So again, I say this with all the love to because I know the person that did this. This is her resume. I say this with all the love in the world, but the resume in this current format sucks, and I don't. It's got to be clean. The cleaner it is, the easier to read it is, the more likely you are to actually get a contact for an interview. Now, that being said, I know this is a resume video, but I want to talk about, there's some other videos I'm putting out on LinkedIn reviews, just reviewing profiles. That's the most important thing, is to get your LinkedIn in order, because that's what attracts jobs to you. Your resume is just kind of a nice to have. However, it still needs to be easy to read and stuff. So anyways, that's the education section. My suggestion is focus on like a single project you did in each of these degrees and tell me all about that project. Again, as succinctly as possible, right? Don't go on for 3 days of text about this or that, but like, problem, action, result. What was the problem? Like, what were you trying to do? What was the project you were trying to do? Who was involved? Did you lead something? What part did you own? Did you lead the project? Whatever. What were some of the challenges you faced in that project? How'd you overcome them as a team? And what was your contribution to that? And what was the ultimate outcome? Again, good or bad, right? Again, you could have totally failed the project, but it was a lesson learned. Tell me about that, because not every project in corporate world is going to be successful. So now moving on to the experience section. Again, way too much text here, bolding, all that stuff like that. Just way too much going on. So just looking at, look at this right here. This right here is gold, but it's at the bottom. It's buried in so much text. So you're a finalist in the top 10 out of 500 people to propose improvements to current products and services. But I want to know more about this, right? And so that's what I'm going to get at here with the experience stuff. Make it specific to where I could see like the actual impact, right? So like what this is kind of generic. So yeah, you're the top 10 out of 500 plus interns, but like tell me more about that, right? You're proposing improvements, like just tell me one product that company had or one service they were doing and tell me about your proposal for that. What was your proposal that got you in that top 10, right? Because that's not an easy feat. So that's impressive, right? But it's too generic. It's too generic right now. So, like, what was that proposal that got you in the top 10, that got you that recognition? That's what I want to see here. Same thing with all this other experience stuff. So you work with various defense teams to understand incident response and you understand, I guess, understand processes. No, that's not what you did. You followed a proven process to help the incident response team combat threats, right? Or help the incident response team detect threats faster, or help the incident response team reduce risk for the organization. That's what you did. You didn't understand processes, right? So that's what you want to do with your professional experience, right? You take these things that you've already got here. For example, the enhanced. So this other one here that I'm reading for those that maybe can't see. Enhanced threat intelligence platform by incorporating an extensive range of observables, if I can pronounce correctly, using SOAR platform, yada, 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 right? So essentially what you did here, let me remove that and let me zoom in a little here. See if my zoomy thing works. Maybe not. There we go. Okay, good deal. So what you did here, though, is like, all right, this is a lot of text. Like this 2 lines of text, way too much text going on there, just for that one bullet. Like your bullets, for the most part, should try to be a single sentence, if you can. If it goes to 2 lines, not life or death, but like definitely cut out some bullets if it's if you got too much going on. But essentially, what you're saying is that you create stronger detections and help improve the investigation response, right? So you you use Python Git. So it looks like I guess I don't know really what you did here. Just kind of looking at this is very generic. So I guess what you did is you built automation is what I'm going to guess here based on some of the terminology you've thrown out. It just looks like you're trying to keyword stuff here. And I'd be like, I don't want to hire this person. But anyways, I'm taking this with a grain of salt. So what it looks like here is that you built automations, you leverage automations to help improve detection and response for the IR team. That, what I said just there now, that should fit on one line. And that tells me exactly what you did, what you can do for my organization. Formulated hypotheses from MITRE ATT&CK framework. Okay, so what I'm guessing you're trying to say there is that you identified relevant TTPs, or you leverage MITRE ATT&CK framework to identify relevant threat actors to the organization and analyze the TTPs that were more likely to be seen, and to help build better defenses or something. Take what I just said and work with it, refine it a little bit so it sounds better. But that's what you essentially did, right? You leverage MITRE ATT&CK. You realize what are the threats. And again, I don't know this organization, so let's say it was just financial services, for example. So you identified the threat actor groups targeting financial services, and specifically based on your geographic location of this company, what was the biggest threats? So you then analyze their TTPs. You also analyze data from past attacks, and I'm making an assumption here. And from that, you then made a proposal for leadership, whether that was leadership of your team or whatever. You were involved in that proposal to say, look, this is the stuff we need to do to help protect against these attacks in the future. That's completely something I could understand as a hiring manager, and how you can come in our team and do the same freaking thing. But the way it's written now, it's just blah, right? It's almost like, for anyone that knows that Charlie Brown cartoon and the teacher, it's like, that's what it sounds like to me. I always think of that teacher when I see resumes like this. And again, I say this with all the compassion and love in the world, but when I see something like this, I'm just like, like I don't understand it, right? So that's, so my suggestion is go through your experience. Even if you only get 1 or 2 bullet points, that's totally cool. You don't need 15 bullet points. If you got 1 or 2 things that you can really refine and make it show that you really worked on something, and even if you got a measurable result, like you built automation that reduced ticketing by 4% or something like that, like anything measurable, fantastic to have on here. But if all you can do is keep it generic, like For example, I followed an incident response playbook and also built automation using PowerShell to help reduce cybersecurity threats to the organization. That's kind of generic, but it also tells me that you were able to follow a playbook and you can also build some automation using PowerShell. That still shows me your impact. And that's what I'm getting at here. It's all about your impact. The more you can show your impact, the more likely someone's to say yes to you and actually bring you in for that job interview. And so that's basically let me zoom out here. That's basically the experience section, right? I'm not going to go through all her experience. That's the experience section there, though. Just get it as specific as you can, and that's going to help you quite a bit. Now, the project stuff she's got here, the same thing I said under education. If you want to list projects, tell me about that project, right? So, for example, she performed a DDoS attack on a Raspberry Pi. Okay, that's nice, but like what? Like, give me a real world. Okay, great. What would you do, right? In the real world, after someone does a DDoS attack on your network, like what would you do to protect against a DDoS attack? Like, tell me that, right? So, okay, you performed a DDoS attack. And that's down here for everyone. You performed that DDoS attack. The next line down, so forget about the Wireshark. Just make that next bullet down. Just say, in the real world, I would leverage security controls like X, Y, and Z to build a layer defense against DDoS attacks. Connect it, right? Any project you did like that, you want to bullet point it out, connect the dots to the real world for me. Because again, most people looking at this are going to be non-technical. They're not going to be cybersecurity people. So connect the dots for them. Make it easy where they're just like, oh my gosh, you've got to talk to her. Yeah, she doesn't have the 5 years experience we want, but her resume just blew me away because she's done so much. Oh my gosh, she did a DDoS attack on this thing called a Raspberry Pi. The only pie I know is the kind you bake and eat it. So I don't even know what that is. But then she showed how she could like protect against it in the real world. Oh my gosh, you've got to interview her, right? That's what you want. That's the reaction you want. You want them to be like, oh my gosh, I got to bring this person in tomorrow for an interview. That's how you get the jobs. That's how you get the interviews and the jobs and all that stuff. That's how you separate yourself from everybody else that's on social media talking about they've been trying for a year. This is exactly how you do it. These little nuances like this is exactly how you do it. Anyways, I've talked a lot on this video, went way past what I wanted to, but this is just a review of this particular resume. Again, there'll be a number of these videos. So depending on the resume format and kind of your experience and things like that, you can get a lot of ideas here, but none of that will help you if you don't actually apply it, right? If you listen to all these videos and you don't actually go fix your own resume, then it's not going to help you whatsoever. So hopefully this video was helpful. If you need more help or other topics you need videos on, let us know in the comments because we're not mind readers. So I don't know what to create unless you tell me. So again, that could also be something as simple as one person asked a question one time. They didn't know what like keywords to put on a resume, right? Which is kind of a 1990s kind of approach of like, let's keyword stuff a resume, which all these resume coaches that charge you $300 or whatever to rewrite your resume, they stuff it with keywords. That stuff doesn't work anymore, right? Everybody's doing that. It doesn't work. You got to do it's like if you got two lines, one line, two restaurants, exact same restaurants, literally same name, same food, everything. One's got a huge line out the door. The other one has no line. Same service. The food's great at both of them. Like, you're going to go stand in line for 3 hours. You're going to go walk to the other one where there's no line. Do something different, right? And all you have to do is cross the street. But most people don't want to cross the street to go to that other restaurant where there's no line. So just be different than everybody else. There's a lot of bad advice out there, which is why I'm doing these videos for all of you. So again, if you need other topics covered, other things you're trying to learn, other questions you have, let us know in the comments. Because again, that's the only way we know what you're struggling with, because the entire goal of this channel is to help you get and grow your cybersecurity career.